Hack RedCon, day one, another interview with another amazing guest. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I'm My name's Derek Lightman. I'm the VP of Offensive Services at RedSeer Security. And yeah, great to meet you.
Dude, RedSeer, first of all, wanted to throw a quick shout out. Your company actually was cool enough to give me 10 free passes to give out to this event. So on a personal note, thank you to yourself and all the rest of the RedSeer team for giving me that opportunity to plant my butt in this chair. So tell me a little bit about RedSeer.
Sure, yeah. So we've been a company since about 2019. We originally started as a CTF team, just called RedSeer. Way back.
You were literally just like a team that would go and compete?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh,
just
dude.
Just a small group of guys, coming together, like-minded, just doing CTF competitions.
And for the record, I am not old enough to be called sir.
Prior service, it's hard to break.
Yeah, prior criminal. Appreciate it. But no, you guys have been an amazing bunch of people, and you guys are the backers for both Hack RedCon as well as Hack SpaceCon, if I'm not correct.
That is correct. Yeah, we run and host both of those conferences.
And for anybody that hasn't been to any of these events, these are some of my personal favorites. They may not be, they're definitely not as big as DEF CON, but let's be honest, DEF CON has gotten to the point where you're lucky if you can get into a session anymore. So I think these a little bit smaller, not to say that it's a small event, but smaller than, say your RSAs, your DEF CONs. This is the intimate setting where people can actually learn and they can actually get to interface with people. So hats off to RedSeer, and thank you guys very much for letting me come out today. So today I wanted to kind of go down with you a little bit on, we are sitting, in my opinion, at the convergence point of technology, artificial intelligence, and humanity. So what do you see as RedSeer is a penetration testing company?
That's correct. We primarily focus on offensive services.
So we are now sitting where we are seeing this massive influx of AI-based penetration testing tools. And see, I'm a pen tester now, but I started my world wearing a very black hat on my head. Mm-hmm. And for me, I look at a lot of these automated programs, and if you want to know the truth, I find them very insulting.
Okay.
Think about this. Yourself, me, and anybody that's actually gotten into offensive security, we had to spend time in the trenches. And if you're older like we are, we didn't have necessarily programs and schools to learn. My first, knowledge base per se was a bulletin board system on a 14.4 modem, and now we have these basically applications that can do all of the stuff that it took us decades to learn.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct on that, and I've actually seen that trend as well. Back when I first got started, there wasn't Hack the Box, there wasn't Try Hack Me. Those things didn't exist yet, and OSCP was really beginning to catch some steam when I jumped on it. I actually have one of the lowest OS IDs out there. It's only 4 digits long.
Whoa!
That's correct. Yeah.
Say that again and if anybody doesn't know, OSCP license numbers now are probably 13, 15.
They're getting pretty long.
Yeah,
they're getting pretty long.
It's looking more like a routing number for a bank.
You're not wrong. I mean, it is getting pretty long, and it's been kind of problematic even verifying certifications sometimes, because at this day and age, a lot of people have them now. OSCP. It's not like it was, back several years ago, where if you had it, you were in.
Oh yeah.
And so now it's, a lot of people are trying to fake it. There are cheats and things. So, but it is actually nice to see the growth in the industry and the push for that education. But you're absolutely right. Before, it was hard. We had to put in a lot of study, a lot of late nights, doing CTFs, just trying to stay sharp, because penetration testing at the time really, it was around, but it hadn't really taken off.
But it wasn't defined. Mm-hmm. It was more like, hey, it wasn't as much of a pen test as it was hey, check my defenses.
Yes.
And that to me was a big difference in the way things are done. Remember that old expression, the job, 9 to 5 will get you the job, 5 to midnight will get you the career.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And even for myself, so I mentioned already I'm prior service. I was in the Army.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And when I got out, I was an intelligence analyst while I was in the service. And I did a tour in Iraq back in 08 and 09. But when I got out, I was still trying to find myself. I'd always been interested in technology. I was doing things I shouldn't be doing, like trying to hack the Wi-Fi in the barracks. Just
Only try?
Well, absolutely, yeah. It was not just a try. It was work.
That's what I wanted to hear.
All right. I'll be totally honest now. I would help the guys out get Wi-Fi when they didn't want to pay for it. They would pay me in beer.
Hey,
Yep.
This is entrepreneurship at its finest, right there. So let's talk a little bit more about what the future looks like for us.
Sure.
Like I said, I've been in this industry now for 30 years. I remember operating systems where there was no GUI. I remember hardware keys. I remember token ring networks. We're now at a point where I'm sitting here, especially as somebody in the offensive security space, going, what does the future of my industry look like for me? We have new cyber insurance requirements that are looking for continuous threat modeling. They're looking for continuous pen testing. They want to be able to do pen testing in production. These are things, especially when it comes to traditional pen tests, we're always limited by either scope of work, rules of engagement. And the other thing when it comes to the stuff that we're doing, this is a snapshot in time.
Exactly.
And on a minimum, I'm going to throw some numbers out there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that will argue with me, but on a low-end pen test, you're looking maybe $20,000, $30,000.
Generally speaking, depending on the, if it's a nonprofit agency, well, it'll be less than that because we try to help them out, of course.
Right, but that's because they're a non-for-profit. But any legitimate company, for-profit company, you're looking on a low end, maybe 20, 30 grand.
That's about right.
And if you really want to go ape shit, these things can go into the millions. So how do we justify our existence to companies where they can get something like a Pantera, something like a Horizon 3 AI to do this type of automated stuff? And how do we find a space for us at this new table?
Sure. So in my opinion, the way things are going now, it's information technology security is becoming a way of life. It's not something that you can ignore anymore. Before, like our parents, grandparents, they were too scared to touch a computer. They were like, oh, I don't know anything about that. But in today's, age, you have to be aware of those things, especially if you're running a company. It's not something that you could just ignore more. You can't just have your IT team come in and put up a firewall and think that you're perfectly secure. We have to change our mindset when we take an approach to security. And that's something that, is hard to communicate at sometimes, especially at the executive level. But with that, then you can, you provide those examples. We're hearing about hacks all the time. People are getting popped constantly. Social security numbers, credit cards, things are always flying out everywhere. And we hear about it almost nearly daily.
We've gotten to the point here, especially in the United States, if you ask me, where we've actually become desensitized to breaches and leaks of PII and data.
Yeah. I mean, my data has been scraped out probably 4 or 5 times at this point that I'm aware of.
Oh, yeah. Only 4 or 5?
Well, I mean, yeah.
You need to get into some.
It's kind of hard to say.
You need to join some more popular websites, man.
Yeah, I try to keep my footprint kind of low on that one, just for that reason. So, but as I was saying, it's a life change. And when you come to a company and you want to talk about their security posture, you have to be able to translate that and what it could actually be for the impact of their company and their customers, their clients as well, not just their employees. It's the impact all across the board. A common term in the industry right now is the CIA triad: the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of your data. If we could come in, and we come in and we could demonstrate by taking shortcuts, you risk this much impact to those 3 things. And be it any company, if it's your, just a small law office, to hospitals, to large states, enterprise, it's all the same at its core.
Do you think that there may be a bit of a cultural difference in terms of how they're looking at cyber? And I'm just throwing this out there. I will freely admit it. I'm Gen X. I am old school. I was left to, run the streets, and I grew up with a certain way of thinking, which, and most of the people that I hang out with would agree with me that I think Gen X, we're naturally skeptical. Mm-hmm. In terms of everything. Mm-hmm. Whereas, the millennials, the Gen Zs, these people they were born into this technology, whereas it was basically something that was injected into our lives. So do you think that as the older generation who are used to doing things the traditional way starts to retire out of the industry, do you think that culturally this new generation is going to look like they have in terms of every other aspect of technology and embraced it? Do you see this possibly being a seismic shift for our industry?
I think it's a double-edged sword. Especially, those that have come up earlier, we had to put in that legwork like we were discussing previously. We really had to understand the technology. Nowadays, it's so rampant, and you get acclimated to it almost immediately. There are 2-year-olds on tablets now who know how to navigate everything, get rid of ads while they play their games, call their parents, and they're 2 or 3 years old. That's something that we did not grow up with. Now, with that, there is a problem with this. Is the other side of that sword. By not having that technical base of learning it yourself and really kind of learning how technology actually works, you're going to miss a lot of those core assets, and you become reliant on the technology that is being presented to you.
We, in our field, we use the technology. If you ask me, a lot of people today, the technology is using them.
I feel that way as well. They are becoming the product.
Exactly. And therein, I think, also creates a new situation for us as security practitioners. We have always, at least in my opinion, tried to keep at least a little bit of an abstraction layer between us, our private personal data, and the devices and what we're giving it. It's the other way around now. And that leads me to the next question of, as the younger generation and the next generation that has been so free with all of their information, do you think that they will see the same need for pen testing and advanced cybersecurity applications like we're doing?
I think so. And we're kind of in that seismic shift right now. I don't think it's really stuck in place just yet. We're familiar with the leaks. We're familiar with the hacks. The younger generation's not so much yet, but everything is getting so interconnected. I mean, we have smart refrigerators now.
We got AI toilets now.
I didn't know that one.
Oh, no. This is where I personally thought that the AI had completely jumped the shark. And I'm not kidding about this. You know that Cologuard, where they can test your feces to see if you have some type of colon cancer?
Yes.
They now have AI toilets that will do that automatically every time you use the restroom.
That's actually fantastic.
The problem with that is they realize that there might be more than one person in the home. So there's an there's a camera that's doing basically visual identification of your booty to know that it's you.
Yeah. But to get to your point with that, I do feel that as technology matures, especially with all of the interconnections that we have now between devices, AI is definitely becoming a thing. That is the top topic of discussion right now. There will be a need for the security side. It's just going to happen. You can't have this much technology around your life with it not being secure. I'll give an example. For instance, there are kids in grade school right now that grade school, middle school, they're getting their phones. Cyberbullying, for instance.
Oh my God!
And it's absolutely terrible. And I think that's really what's going to set the baseline for that is dealing with situations like that, getting their accounts stolen by their friends, and just that type of push into things. And I feel like it will, as the generation comes up, they're going to see a need for security because they're going to see it failing around them more often now because there is more out there.
That's an interesting way of spinning it, because I mean, if you ask me, and I'm not trying to be confrontational with you,
no.
I think we're already there. I mean, we've been witnessing cyberbullying. I mean, look at some of the deep fake bullying that's been done to some of these poor kids out there.
Yeah, it's terrible stuff.
This is absolutely repulsive, but we're still seeing it. Mm-hmm. We passed laws against it. Doesn't stop it. So unfortunately, I think at the end of the day, from my perspective, we need to be ultimately responsible for our own digital selves, and it's up to us how much we actually put out there for the world to see. And unfortunately, I think being part of the dying skeptical generation, I do fear for what the younger generation has already leaked that they can't take back.
Exactly. Yeah. And it wasn't like that, of course, when we were growing up, we could do some stupid stuff and it not be recorded on everyone's phone, be on Twitter instantly. Yes.
You have no idea how many times I have thanked whatever higher power there is for making me a young adult before the advent of cell phone cameras.
Yes.
We did all the same stupid stuff that they did. It's just not living in perpetuity on the internet.
Yes. So as we move forward with that and the need for security and the understanding that it is super important, be it that we have these, lots of technologies out there now, the companies that run these and release these, different, phones, tablets, and so on, whatever that we have, coming out, it is now going to be a requirement for them. It already is, technically speaking. There's already cyber insurance incidents, but you mentioned earlier we get desensitized to that. There's going to come a day we're going to stop being desensitized to it.
I wish it would come soon.
I agree.
Because the sooner we start seeing outrage and start demanding change and accountability through the platforms that we're using, then we might be able to get some security back into our lives.
Yes, yeah, and I honestly think that's going to happen. I think that day is coming. Hopefully sooner than later, of course. And that,
the only problem with that is what is the event that's going to trigger it?
I'm really not sure. As many breaches as we've heard about here recently, there seems to be a full plethora of things
Exactly.
that are compromised.
How bad would it have to be before somebody finally goes, okay, this is the bridge too far? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at the breaches, the data leaks, industrial espionage, geopolitical activism, call it whatever you want. The ways and the means that people can get to us, it's just growing by the day.
Yes. Yeah. When things begin to affect your life personally or financially, and I see that coming more often with with these hacks, the public, they're going to get angry about it and they're going to demand something. It's right now, if your credit card gets compromised, they give you who it is. They'll give you a free year of credit monitoring. Who cares?
Who cares? Because you are you for the rest of your life, not just for a year.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
So
pushing into that, when it comes to the security practitioners, the pen testers, the SOC teams who are really in the weeds right now, as we move forward with this, those companies are really going to have to knuckle down and look at their security posture, and we're going to have to translate that to them to protect not only just the company but our lives, because again, everything's so interconnected.
We're in for a real scary future. I'm grateful that there are people like us, companies like RedSeer, conferences like HackRedCon, where we can continue to try and educate and share this information with the next generation, and hopefully people take us up on it, because as far as I'm concerned, I am ready to pass the torch. I got 15 years to retirement, and I'm looking forward to retiring out on my ranch and letting somebody else deal with all this stuff. I really am.
Yeah, that's respectable. I get that. I am glad you brought up education, though, because at RedSeer, that is one of our primary missions is education. We love to bring in veterans, low income, those who are trying to get a restart in life.
Your voucher program that you guys do.
Build Cyber, yes.
Build Cyber, that is, I had one of your guys in here on my last podcast interview. If anybody out there is not aware of this, RedSeer and Build Cyber, the voucher program, these guys are educating people who would never get these opportunities. And Ben, my last guest, actually was one of the original voucher recipients.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
And to see somebody who went from a voucher to where he's now a DevOps engineer, and the guy understands DevSecOps, that's something that doesn't exist in this entire industry. So, what you guys are doing is amazing, and you are definitely part of the solution. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And it ties into our conferences to how we run things as well. You mentioned we generally have smaller conferences. HackRed is not DEF CON. Hackspace is not DEF CON. But because we're so invested in the people,
you're getting more out of it.
Yes, it's more personal. You actually get to you making long-term relationships with people that you meet at our conferences or smaller conferences.
Case in point, I was here last year. I live in Texas. I walked in here and half of your attendees remembered me from last year. This is absolutely amazing.
And that's a great feeling.
It is.
Some people are socially awkward or they're hard to get out of their shell, but they come around next year and it's like, hey man, good to see you again.
Yeah.
And let's go eat. Let's join this talk together, or let's just do a CTF, man.
Let's just tear some stuff up.
Exactly. So with that being said, we really push that intimacy not only in the conferences and our education arm, but in our penetration tests as well.
And that, in my opinion, is one of the things that makes you guys much different than a lot of other companies out there.
Yes, we're not a larger boutique firm, as you're aware. We don't come in and try to nickel and dime the company. We're not trying to get rich off an assessment. We're trying to build partnerships and relationships so we can continue to increase security postures across the board. And when I say we get intimate with our assessments, we're not going to give you an automated Nessus scan and call it a penetration test.
Oh, thank you.
And I hate when I hear that happens, because it happens a lot.
More often than you'd want to admit.
Yes. It makes the industry look bad. It makes the practitioners look bad. It's terrible.
And it causes the clients to lose faith.
Exactly. Yeah, and if they're not getting the value, because as you said, some of these assessments, they start around $30,000. If you're giving them a $30,000 piece of paper and there's not much to it, they're not going to come back.
They're not going to get a repeat
and they may not
customer.
even ever get a pen test again.
Exactly. They may lose faith in the process itself, which would lead them and their businesses in a less safe posture overall.
Yep, and then it's only a matter of time.
On a long enough timeline, everybody's chances of survival go to zero.
Yes.
Gotta love Fight Club.
Yeah. When we approach a penetration test, our pen testers are very passionate about the field. We study intimately threat actors across the board. APT threat actors, Russia, China. We try to get our heads around the TTPs from those threat actors, and we use them during our pen test so you can actually see as a company what your defenses can actually stop. We're not trying to do the automated stuff. Any EDR nowadays is going to catch the easy things.
Absolutely.
But what they're not going to catch is someone who's coming in, they're looking at your environment, they're going slow, and they're just abusing your misconfigurations. They're not coming in with hacker tools. I'm going to drop a rat or Trojans, or here's my virus, just so I can maintain persistence.
The best hackers out there are using living off the land binaries.
That is how to do it. That is exactly how to do it. That's how you stay off the radar, and that's what larger threat actors are doing too.
Absolutely. So I'm going to close down this part of the conversation by saying I'm grateful that the AI and the LLMs have not gotten to the point where they can turn any noob into an elite. Mm-hmm. But I fear that we're not too far away from it.
See, I almost have to disagree.
Please.
So the way I'm looking at AI as it is now, and as we came up, there were C2 tools. Mm-hmm. We called them rats back then.
Oh yeah.
And that at the time, I remember, learning about, I was sub 7, I think was one of the ones I first cut my teeth on. It was like, this makes it so easy. Why do I have to put in more effort to be a better hacker? I see AI as just being one of those tools that have just come out. It's just a new tool.
Oh, I agree. Right now, to me, AI is nothing more. AI and LLMs is nothing more than just basically a knowledge base.
Yes, and that's the way it should be used, in my opinion. The AI learns from us, and if we become too reliant on it, especially to conduct manual assessments like pen testing, well, eventually the AI is going to stop and say, okay, well, there's nothing new. There's nothing new. Yes, and what is going to be detrimental to the industry is those practitioners that come up on AI only. It comes in so fast. It's so easy to consume that knowledge. They're not going to retain it.
And when it comes time to actually have those discussions for remediation,
yes,
they're
not going to know the ins and outs. However, that being said, I do think it is a great thing that is coming. AI, it's proven to be very powerful. It could be used in a lot of ways. I just don't think it's going to replace pen testing.
I don't think it's going to replace it right away. But unfortunately, what I'm afraid of is the marketing and how it's going to be marketed as if it was a replacement. I've heard a lot of the pitches for a lot of these automated companies, and that's kind of the model that they're using is use us so you don't have to spend all this and we're there all the time. And that's great until it's not.
Yes.
And as far as I'm concerned, the idea of being able to completely remove us from the process is going to be a very detrimental process. And unfortunately, I think there's going to be some companies out there that are going to have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Just to back up my point here, with EDR solutions, blue teams, SOC teams, a lot of their day-to-day job is just filtering through the mess. A lot of it is being caught, and a lot of the tier 1 guys, they're feeling almost like they're being replaced. But it's going to come down to at some point, that something is not going to be caught, or something is going to come across advanced where you still need that human interaction. And what we have to do as practitioners today, as leaders in the community, is make sure that we push that core foundation out as much as we can as we grow our own.
I agree. So anything coming up on the radar for RedSeer in the near future? I mean, I know this is, the flagship conference right here. Well, this one in Hackspace. But anything else coming up for the rest of the year for you guys as far as conferences or outings?
We are in the development for putting in Hack HealthCon.
Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah, we don't have a date yet, or it's not fully there. We're working on it. But what we're trying to do is branch out, and of course this is still education-based, into the health industry, because that is one of the ones that's targeted the most. And when that happens, a hospital gets ransomware.
That's real ransom.
People die.
That's ransomware that is a ransom.
Yeah, people will literally die. So what we want to do is push into that industry and let them understand that, hey, we're not just trying to, sell you some defense package. We want to educate them as well and say, hey, come to this conference. We're going to show you the ins and outs of the red side, the blue sides as well, and how it can actually benefit the hospitals. And it's not something that's out there right now.
The closest thing would be the biohacking village at DEF CON. And as somebody that loves to play in the biomed space, I've already talked to some of the other members of your team. Any way I can assist in that, I would be happy to participate.
Oh, we'll give you a call for sure.
So with that, you want to throw out your contact information, how people can get in touch with you?
Sure. Yeah, I'm the only Derek Lightman on LinkedIn. That'll be the quickest way to do it. And my middle name is Thor, Derek Thor Lightman. So.
Oh my God, that is the coolest middle name. I thought I had a cool last name. No. Everybody, just remember, Dr. No was the bad guy. And with that, one more podcast down, many more to go. Hack RedCon, continuing on.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us on.
Till next time, peace.